Good evening. Welcome to our Wednesday Wellness webinar from United Medical ACO. My name is Kemal Erkan. Today is March 8th, 2023. This is our monthly event, and we have different panelists every month with our core team. We try to have a variety of guests with different expertise and trying to help our patients who is going through the diabetes, dealing with diabetes throughout their lives. So just to introduce our program for those who this may be the first time, well, today is the International Women's Day, so congratulations. We celebrate that in the United States and also in Turkey office, but for all those who are joining us, thank you. So our program is it's an accredited diabetes program. So Dr. Ripu Handal from First Aid Endo, he's our program director, and Caroline Weber is our head dietitian, and Donna, Gunkel, and myself are the administrator for the program. And also we have Roxana and Carla, two social workers who are helping our patients throughout their care that they receive from us. And today our panelist is, of course, we have Caroline Weber, who's going to address the nutrition part of it. And then we have McKenna Welshans. McKenna is a dietitian and exercise physiologist. So it's actually the first time we have someone with her credentials. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to have McKenna to introduce herself and start from there.
All right, let me see if I can bring my PowerPoint up here. Good evening, everyone. My name is McKenna Welshans, and I am really excited to be speaking with all of you tonight, especially with it being National Dietitian Day. That's pretty exciting as a dietitian and exercise physiologist. So before I start, I guess I will finish pulling up my slides here. Before I start, I just want to share a little bit more about my background. Like I mentioned before, I am a registered dietitian and an exercise physiologist, and I'm credentialed through the ACSM, the American College of Sports Medicine, as an exercise physiologist, but I also have a certified strength and conditioning specialist background and an exercise medicine background. I worked as a dietitian and a personal trainer for about 5 years now, with a variety of different clientele, and it's been really enjoyable just to get to know a variety of different types of people and different interests. And that's what I'm really passionate about, is using what I've learned in both fields to just equip people and empower people to really enjoy the fullest life that they can. I think that health is definitely something that requires some discipline and some planning, but it also should be something that's really improving quality of life and something that you really look forward to practicing. So that is my goal in working with each person that I've had the opportunity to spend time with. So tonight I want to focus more on the exercise side, and we'll touch on nutrition at the end of the presentation. But first I will just list some of the things that exercise helps us with. And some of those include blood sugar regulation, which is really important when you have diabetes, just because anything that we can use in our daily practice to help manage that is going to improve a lot of different health markers. So moving the body helps keep blood sugar more consistent and more stable. And over time, it can also possibly decrease your need for medication. So that's another really important benefit. And with that, it tends to improve your body's sensitivity to insulin, which helps regulate blood sugar. It also will decrease risk of heart disease and other comorbidities that often come along with long-term diabetes. It will help improve mood and energy levels. It can also help improve your sleep quality, regulate your appetite. And with all of that, it can also decrease your overall stress, which helps just even be able to manage our mood and even manage how we go throughout our day if we can decrease our stress levels. And then over time, exercise can really improve your balance and even functional capacity, just whatever it is you have to accomplish throughout the day, whether it be housework or physical labor of some sort. Exercise can really help with that process too. So I'm going to go into just giving you some practical tips on what it might look like to build your own exercise routine. When we develop recommendations for exercise, they're centered around two different things. We tend to focus on cardiovascular training, which is lighter intensity on the muscle groups. We're doing repetitive motion with all of the major muscle groups at the same time, which really stresses our cardiovascular system, our heart muscle, which is extremely helpful in regulating our metabolism and our blood sugar. And it just strengthens our heart so that we can be more efficient with pumping blood and nutrients throughout the body. So we're focused on getting our heart rate up, getting our breathing rate up with cardiovascular training. And then with strength training, we're a little bit more focused in on the actual strength of the muscles working. And we found that research has shown that when you can incorporate a combination of both cardiovascular training and strength training over time, it's a lot more effective in improving your health. So generally speaking, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that when you are doing cardiovascular training throughout a week, you try to work up to being able to do at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity activity, or 75 minutes per week of vigorous intensity activity. And I'll break down what that would look like in future slides. When strength training is concerned, we try to have people focus on working all the major muscle groups. So back, arms, chest, legs, especially muscles connected with our trunk, because that helps just support our back and helps with posture and balance. We try to work all of those muscle groups at least 2 days a week, but we don't want them to be consecutive days because it's really important to allow for that time of recovery for the muscles. So when you are trying to figure out where to start, one really, really important aspect to this is what is fun for you? What is enjoyable? Because we are so much more likely to repeat things that we enjoy. And I think a lot of times when we hear the word exercise, we think inside this box of going to a gym and lifting weights, or going to a gym and getting on a treadmill. And that thought doesn't elicit joy for most people. So this is where I would encourage clients to think outside the box, think about what movement brings them joy. Is it gardening? Is it playing a sport of some kind? Is it going for a walk with a friend? It could be so many different things. Maybe it's dancing, and you definitely have to take into consideration where your own mobility is at, what the starting point is, and think realistically how we can progress toward that activity if that's not where you're at right now. So some examples of ways that you can incorporate both cardiovascular training and strength training might be, maybe if you're gardening, just trying to, lifting things, or even pulling weeds sometimes might simulate more of a strength training focus in that activity. Whereas if you're walking, or even like taking a wheelbarrow around, that might be more of a cardio type activity. But the biggest thing when you're starting is trying to envision those things that would bring you a lot of joy. And some people really enjoy exercise involving just being by themselves. They're by themselves out in nature even. Others are really motivated by meeting with a friend or going to a class and having that kind of structure and that accountability, that camaraderie that goes along with meeting with others. So try to figure out what motivates you most and incorporate that. As my slide mentioned, consider where you're at now. If you're in a place where mobility is limited, you haven't been active for quite some time, we want to focus maybe on starting more with a cardio emphasis in your training and not incorporating too much strength training right off the bat, just because that can cause a lot of soreness at first that might be discouraging from discourage you from wanting to continue. So we start lightly just by moving the body with cardiovascular exercise and then slowly add in some more strength training. It's really important that you talk to your doctor before starting anything too serious or structured, just to make sure that your doctor is aware of that change in activity and could recommend any changes to your medication and even diet changes to help support that. It's definitely important to surround yourself with a team, with a support system in this, especially professionals who can help you in your health journey with exercise starting to be incorporated. When you're trying to build a structured cardio program for yourself, there's something that we tend to look at. It's called the FIT principle, and it stands for F would be frequency, how often you want to try to do the exercise. I is intensity, how hard you're working. T is time, and then the second T is type. So with cardio, you want to try to aim to be active, getting your heart rate up, breathing rate up at least 3 to 4 days per week. Research shows that moderate to vigorous intensity activity can make your cells a lot more sensitive to insulin for up to 48 hours. So it's helpful if you're active in some way at least every other day. And that will help control your blood sugar. I is intensity, and there's something called the talk test that is just a general way to determine about how hard you're working. And as you start to move and engage in that cardiovascular activity, pay attention to breathing rate. You expect that to come up, but you should still be able to carry on a conversation with someone. You might have to take a breath here and there, but you could continue to talk to them without it being a lot of effort or having to take a lot of breaks in between words to get that breath in. If that kind of activity would be categorized in the moderate activity category, and that would fall into that 150 minutes per week goal. Now, if you would progress past moderate to where now you're really breathing hard and it's difficult to carry on that conversation, you're probably bridging into vigorous intensity activity. And that especially is something we want to be careful about when you're starting back into exercise, and something that I would want to see you working with an exercise physiologist or have your doctor give you recommendations on that, just because it does stress the body a lot more, and it's better to stay at a lower intensity level of activity at first. But like I said, if you really kind of start to bridge into that space of having difficulty carrying on a conversation, you're probably more in the vigorous activity category. And I would just encourage you to slow back the intensity down at that point. Now, as far as time goes, if we take the 150-minute recommendation and broke that out over 3 to 5 days, that's kind of how you would determine how long you'd want to work out each time. An easy way to look at it might be maybe you work yourself up to being active 5 days per week for 30 minutes. That would be a good way to break it down. But if you haven't been active, you don't want to jump right into that volume. We want to progress the body incrementally into that. So if you're currently inactive, probably about 10 to 15-minute bouts would be a good place to start. And then every 2 to 4 weeks, maybe you're increasing just a little bit more until maybe you can maintain that 30 to 60 minutes of activity comfortably. And again, it should be in the moderate intensity activity category. Type, that's for you to determine. Again, it should be something that's enjoyable, something with it being cardio focused, it should be something that's rhythmic, where you're using all the large muscle groups and your breathing rate and your heart rate are up. So that's, again, where you have a lot of flexibility. It could be, You know, it could be going for a swim, it could be brisk walking, it could be riding a bike. Later on in the session or the presentation tonight, I'll share a couple more ideas for if you're starting from the place of kind of limited mobility, some ways that you can get a little bit creative and get your heart rate up even from maybe a seated position. I'm going to progress into recommendations for a strength program. Like I said before, strength is not something that we do quite as often as cardio, and you definitely don't want to do it back-to-back days if you're working the same muscle groups. Sometimes people will get to the point where they are strength training every day, but they'll usually alternate. Maybe it's upper body one day, lower body the next, then upper body, then lower body, so that the same muscle groups aren't getting worked back-to-back. That would be the goal with strength training. If we're looking at the FIT principle again, as far as intensity goes, it might be a good idea to start moderately. So choosing a weight that you can pick up and maintain good form for about 10 to 15 reps. And then over time, you can slowly increase that rep count as you get stronger. But say, for example, you are going to do squats. Your first time might involve doing 10 squats, and then 2 days later, you'd do that 10 squats again. And over the course of a couple weeks, you would increase to 15 and then maybe 20. And once you can do that exercise comfortably with safe form about 20 times, you can probably add a second set on of that. But at first, you want to start with just one set, because you don't want to overstress the joints, and you want to make sure that your body has time to adapt, so that, because when we overstress the muscles when they aren't strong enough to keep proper form, that's when we can become at more risk of developing injuries. And then as far as type goes, it could be a variety of different things. If you have a gym membership, maybe you can go and use machines. If you are just working out from home, maybe you have some dumbbells or some bands. Some people will even get creative and you'd use household items like a milk jug or some cans of beans or something like that. It doesn't have to be an official weight or band for it to work. So that's where I would encourage you to just consider what you have available to you. You can also just do body weight stuff too. We don't always need to be holding something to get to stress those muscle groups. So my biggest encouragement to you is, if you don't have a background in strength training, that you watch videos of trainers explaining proper form, or you hire a personal trainer, a physical therapist, or someone who can guide you through that activity, because it's extremely important that you aren't lifting with improper form, because it just really increases your risk for injury over time. Recently, I heard someone make a really good point about the fact that the human body is capable of moving in all kinds of directions. So it's not that just like, you know, we do risk injury with that one time that we kind of lift inappropriately, but it's more so if you routinely are performing squats with improper position or improper form. You know, it's the repetitive motion in a compromised position that will really increase our risk for injury. And so that's, again, why I encourage people to set that really solid foundation for themselves. We tend, like I said from the beginning, we tend to focus in on cardiovascular and strength training, but flexibility is also extremely important and can really support our training as well. Strong muscles do often get kind of tight. And when there's tightness, especially imbalanced tightness from lack of flexibility, it can also compromise our joint health. So stretching is extremely important. However, one point I do want to make about stretching is, traditionally, we used to hold a static stretch, or, you know, like thinking about touching your toes and holding that position. That would be an example of a static stretch, something where the muscle is stretched and held for a long period of time. traditionally we used to warm up for sports and different forms of exercise that way by performing those stretches, but we found that it's actually when you stretch cold muscles, you can actually cause micro tears in the muscle cells, which then when you go to do that higher intensity activity, it predisposes you to injury. So it's actually better to do dynamic movements that actually put the joints through the same range of motion that they might be going through during the cardio activity. It's better to do like arm swings and leg swings and things like that to warm your body up. And then after you're done with activity, after you're done with exercise, that's when you would perform the static stretching, the held positions, because at that point the muscles are warm and there's a lot of blood flow to the muscles, so they're a lot more pliable, and then you're a lot less likely to cause those little micro tears in the muscle cells. But some examples of practices that help improve flexibility might be Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates is great with flexibility, but also building core strength. They also help improve balance and coordination and also help you relax. You know, each form of movement and exercise has a different way of helping you release stress and relax. But if you imagine yourself going out for a brisk walk or a run, even though that does release some tension, it also can hype you up a little bit too. And taking that time to stretch at the end would allow your body to just relax a little bit more. So again, there are a lot of benefits to flexibility and preventing muscle imbalances with that. So I encourage people to incorporate that a couple times per week too, especially after a strength training or cardiovascular session when their muscles are going to be a little bit more tight and warm. I mentioned before about considering where you're starting from, and if you're in a space where you're limited to a seat, or your mobility is limited to a seated position, there are a lot of different ways you can get your heart rate up and improve your strength even from sitting down. And this is one way, you know, something where, again, it's the rhythmic motion, moving the muscle, moving your limbs, and using different muscle groups in a repetitive kind of motion to get your heart rate up. And here, this person is marching. So that's one way to work your core and your lower body while also getting your heart rate up seated. There are also recumbent bikes that you can get on that provide a lot of support for your body, don't require as much balance as a typical bike, and are very low impact. So this is another option. There are also hand cycling machines. If you're in a place where moving the legs is difficult, you can also just get your heart rate up by moving your arms on a machine like this. Or, you know, even if you don't have access to a machine like this, this is where just doing that motion seated at home, maybe you're even holding some light weights to add a little bit more resistance. You can get a little bit creative depending on what you have available to you. This is an example of a strength exercise you could do from a seated position. If you had dumbbells or bands, you could work upper body this way. And there are a lot of videos online guiding people through exercises from a chair. So I have here 3 websites that provide some really great quality exercises from both from a cardiovascular standpoint and a strength training standpoint. Fitnessblender.com is a good one. They have a great database of free exercise videos, some of which include some chair exercises. And then CaliforniaMobility.com also has some good ones, and More Life Health. So if that's something that interests you, you can go to any of those websites and just see if they have videos on there that would provide instruction in a way that you would enjoy incorporating into your routine. This is another visual of how you can get creative and move your body, whether it involves swimming or some kind of body weight exercise, resistance training, finding a personal trainer who can just guide you through that whole process. Even rowing is another low impact form of cardiovascular training that people enjoy, going for a walk. And then yoga, anything related to balance. Although I will say that moving more really stimulates the neuromuscular connection from your brain to your muscles. And even just simply by moving more, it can improve your balance and your coordination. But strengthening those muscles then through resistance training is really effective at improving balance. So you don't necessarily have to do balance training. Any of these activities would help improve balance just because of the way that they improve the connection from your brain to your muscles and improve the strength of those muscles. I would like to transition into nutrition. As a dietitian, that is really, really key in this whole process. We can work really hard on our physical health through movement and exercise, but we need to be backing it up with, did my screen just stop sharing?
Oh, I got it.
You got it. Okay. Can you see it all right?
Yeah, so I'll take it from here. So on the transition, but we have.
He has a couple more slides.
Oh, perfect. Okay, sorry about that.
I'm so sorry. I thought.
It's okay.
Never mind. So go ahead. I thought it was your slide. Go ahead, McKenna. You can take over. My apologies.
That's okay. No, you're good. So you said you can see my slides still, correct?
You can't see it right now.
We can't see right now, so you just need to reshare.
Okay.
I had a surprise here, so then I kind of just ruined it.
Be sure it said nutrition. So.
No, I had something a bit funny, but it's too late now.
Okay.
So sorry.
About that. Whoops. All right. So really quickly, I just wanted to cover a couple things about nutrition because that really, really can help or hinder our progress with our overall health. There's so much conflicting information out there that when I am working with clients, so often they are unsure what to trust, what to believe, what the best way is to go about it. I am very flexible in my approach to nutrition because I think there are a lot of ways to do it well, and in an effort for you to personalize it and make it feasible for your own lifestyle and even enjoyable. I really encourage clients to be realistic in the goals they set in their nutrition, but there are a couple key things. And some of, if I were to break it down into like 3 different topics, number 1 would be timing of nutrition. I am a big believer in eating early in the day. And a lot of times if people are exercising early in the day, it's easier to work out fasted. And that's not generally something I encourage people to do. When we fuel our workouts, we are priming our metabolism to really function at its best. So even just a little bit of a snack, anything that your stomach could handle pre-workout, that is going to be a better option than working out fasted. It's really trendy to work out fasted, but it's really not best for giving our body the nourishment that it needs. Along with that, hydration is extremely important. So I really like to see people drinking consistently throughout the day, and that can really improve energy level, really decrease inflammation, and improve overall recovery from exercise bouts. And I really also like to see people incorporating as much variety as possible. Our bodies tend to respond pretty well to food, plant-based food, plants, especially in the form of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes. They just pack in a lot of really important nutrients for us. So my approach is whole food focused, realizing that not every single thing we eat is going to be whole food, and that is okay. But trying to make that the foundation of what you're doing can be really, really helpful in maximizing the nutrients that you're taking in. And then just trying to eat consistently throughout the day, maybe every 2 to 4 hours or so. It doesn't necessarily mean we're eating more, but that more consistent energy intake will allow our metabolism to function at its best. And especially when we're considering exercise, our body is in this mode of recovery, and that's why it needs more consistent nourishment throughout the day. I talk about at the end of this slide having fatty fish for the sake of omega-3 content, because omega-3s are something that are often pretty deficient in our diets, and they're really powerful anti-inflammatory. And one of the best ways to get those in is just by eating 2 servings of fatty fish like salmon or tuna per week. So in the next slide, I provided two different fish recipes, and maybe these can be shared in the notes on the video. There's a tuna salad recipe that's really good, and tuna salad is delicious with something like whole grain crackers, or even you could stuff it into those mini peppers that you buy at the store sometimes. That's a really good way to eat it. And then baked salmon with some kind of high fiber starch like quinoa or brown rice, and then some kind of roasted veggie is really delicious as well. So if you aren't a fan of fish, I would encourage you just to be a little bit adventurous with your palate and maybe give these recipes a try and see what you think. That is all I have. So feel free to jump in, Caroline, if you're ready to share what you have.
What a beautiful nutrition intro. I loved it. I'm kind of piggybacking off of what McKenna went over, especially with exercising, lowering your blood sugar, even hours after doing exercise. So that means we want to fuel you well to do any kind of physical activity. But also I get lots of questions and appointments about what snacks can I include and what's a balanced snack. So we don't want to risk any low blood sugars, especially when we've done physical activity on the regular. Instead, we want to kind of fuel you for that physical activity well, and also have it be really tasty too. So we're going to go into some different types of recipes and review some snacks and key components for good maintaining energy, especially during a physical activity or even just a long day. But we know snacks can play a versatile role in our diets, whether it's for health, performance, joy, practicality, when you can't eat a full meal. And it helps us meet our nutrient needs and fuels us through the day. So when we choose snacks, it's useful to consider the macronutrient distribution there. So we want to kind of go through kind of what carbs, protein, and fats do for our body. So we know that carbs are the main source of the body's energy. It's the preferred source of energy. So if your goal is kind of more sustained energy, then we kind of opt for a slow digesting, high fiber kind of fuel. If you kind of need that quick energy, right, we could look at other different sources of carbohydrate, maybe some fruit. Maybe it might be a small thing of pasta salad to kind of give you that quick energy that you need. So we also want to look at that protein and fat. We know that they're also important in our energy metabolism, but their primary benefit is not necessarily that immediate source of energy, right? They're both vital for your health, but neither is really an efficient source of energy. So protein being kind of the least efficient energy source, because it has to go through all those layers of conversion to be broken down before you can enter an energy cycle. That's all the metabolism talk, but it also helps you to stay full. So we kind of focus on that protein and that fat content to help you stay full and give you that long sustained energy. So that's just a quick, brief overview of our roles of macronutrients in our kinds of snacks, because they're the building blocks of kind of each recipe we'll go through. So our goal for today is to understand how to balance our blood sugars and provide us energy when incorporating movement and exercise. So recipe number 1 is one of my favorites, and it's actually super easy to put together because it doesn't require any baking. It's just mixing it in a bowl. So we've got some peanut butter, we've got some chocolate chips, we've got some oats, some flaxseed and honey for these peanut butter energy balls. But they are actually very versatile. You could change it up. If you don't like chocolate, you could put cranberries. You could mix up some add-ins like some chia seeds or some coconut flakes if you wanted some different flavor profiles in there. But the key really is with this recipe, we've got a nice balance. We've got some protein from the peanut butter. We've got a little bit of that really structured oat, high fiber carbohydrate there. That's going to keep you full. We even could add some, if we added chia seeds, we'd be adding a really nice omega-3 fatty acid there. So you'd roll it all into a ball. They store really nicely. And this would be a great recipe to take with you on the go. So it's something you could eat maybe 1 or 2 of, give you some nice quick energy to kind of maintain you until your next meal or prep you for, exercise going in. This would be really nice in the morning if you feel like you're going to skip breakfast going into an exercise. It's something small and light that you could try. So peanut butter energy bites, very easy to make and prep ahead of time. So our next recipe is creamy overnight oats. So I don't know if anybody else has tried overnight oats, but I get really grossed out when it's like the chunky overnight oats. I'm not a fan of like digging my spoon in and getting a big chunk of oats, but this one's actually blended. You can blend this, like do the same thing you would do with overnight oats, put it in a blender, and then it becomes this kind of like pudding consistency, which is more palatable for me. So it's preference on that preparation skill. But your creamy overnight oats, they have a really great, that high fiber oat, right? You're gonna stay full longer with that high fiber carbohydrate. We've got some plain Greek yogurt, which is gonna act as a really great protein to keep you full longer. You could even bump the protein up. Say you're gonna eat this after an exercise routine and you kind of want something more filling. You could add a protein powder if you wanted. You could add some peanut butter. You could kind of mix it up with what preference you have. So all these recipes are pretty customizable, which is really nice because we all have different taste preferences. This could also be substituted as a really great breakfast as well, and stored into the fridge a couple of days beforehand. So you could kind of quick grab and go, but really great sustainable energy. We've got some chia seeds. You could add some flaxseed for some fiber in there, but really, really great for keeping you full through the day as a nice quick snack. So our next recipe, this is the homemade perfect bar. So I get asked all the time, what's the best granola bar? I don't have a favorite granola bar that I have. McKenna, if you have one, let me know. But this is the homemade perfect bar. So if you've seen those bars they keep in the refrigerator section in the stores, it's called the perfect bar. This is just a homemade version. It stores really nicely in the fridge or the freezer. It's great because you kind of know everything that's going into it and you can customize it the way you want based on if you want a little more protein, if you want more flavor. I have substituted the flours out a little bit. Sometimes I use what's available. Don't use regular flour because foodborne illness isn't great. So stick with coconut flour, almond flour, oat flour. Those flours aren't the contaminated kind that need to be cooked and things like that. So you can mess around with this recipe as much as you want. Go for a protein powder if you want. If not, you've still got some really great protein in that peanut butter or nut butter that you're going to use. And so this would be a really great one to take with you on the go as well. I like this in the middle of my day more than in the morning. Sometimes it's a nice sweet snack in the evening. You can kind of time it around when you want to be most active in your day, or if you just need a quick snack. So next is quinoa egg bites. A few webinars ago, I had introduced egg bites as a recipe. They're not my favorite because I'm usually hungry within a couple hours after eating them. So this one is a really great recipe if you want to stay full a little longer because it's got some quinoa in it. So you've got a really nice carbohydrate in there that's going to work with your protein, work with the fat and the cheese, and it's going to help you stay fuller longer. So there's a common theme with all of these snacks that we're going through, and we want them to be sustainable, right? So we want to have a good proportion of protein, carb, fat, because not only is it sustainable for your energy, your blood glucose is going to be really happy too. We always talk about in counseling, pair your carb with a friend, pair it with a protein, because your blood sugar is going to respond really well to that slower digestion of the carb. So quinoa egg bites, really nice, also customizable. If you don't like vegetables, you don't have to add them in, but you can really mix it up, add some spinach. You could add some turkey sausage or regular sausage or some ham if you wanted to kind of give it some different taste profiles. So we can really customize this the way you want it, but it's also nice because all you got to do, you could eat it cold if you wanted to, but all you got to do is pop it in the microwave, and it's something really quick that you could grab before your morning workout or maybe as an afternoon snack after a workout. Really, the goal is to kind of give you that stable intake through the day while maintaining those blood sugars. And then our next recipe, courtesy of McKenna, because I asked her for her recommendations too, the chocolate chia seed pudding, which I'm a big fan of. The more I talk about it with patients, they're like, I have no idea what chia seed pudding is. But it is pretty delicious. It kind of takes, if you've never had it, it kind of takes the form of like tapioca, similar. It's a soluble fiber. So if you think it gelatinizes when you add water, fun fact about chia seeds, you can substitute it as an egg if you want to. So that kind of gives you an idea how like gelatinous it gets. So it creates like a really nice pudding consistency. The cocoa powder is a plus because I'm a chocolate fan. So add that into it, makes a really nice sweet snack. But you've also got some rich fat fatty acids in there. You've got some protein you could pair it with, especially if you go for that Greek yogurt mix, it's going to be much richer. I find this is really nice for patients who struggle with maybe acid reflux in the mornings, or you don't want something super heavy because you're not a big breakfast eater. This is very light, so it's not going to sit heavy in your stomach. It also improves digestion because chia seeds, that high fiber content, great. So, Turkish yogurt. Oh, I was like, I can't read that. Turkish yogurt. Now, what's Turkish yogurt?
It is the Greek yogurt.
Is it? So is it the same consistency, right? Hi, I learned something new. So feel free, add Turkish yogurt. And it's high protein, right? So it's same thing. And is the Turkish yogurt also like, do they add sugar to it, or is it just plain?
No sugar, it's just plain.
Okay. So that would be a perfect substitute to kind of add in here. You could even top it with fresh berries, throw some nuts in there for some extra protein, extra crunch. So our goal here is not to sacrifice flavor. When you think health food, or, I got to drink a protein shake to get the maximum benefit out of my exercise or out of my snack, right? You don't have to sacrifice flavor. And I like what McKenna said a lot about like finding whole foods. You don't have to get everything that's been pre-made, pre-packaged as a protein snack. Of course, they're very helpful because, non-perishable, stick in your bag, good to go. But these are a great way to kind of access your whole food sources, not sacrificing taste, yet still getting that sustainable energy and balancing your blood sugar as well. So if you haven't tried chia seed pudding, I highly recommend it. This one is also courtesy of McKenna. So peanut butter banana protein muffins. I get so many patients asking me, like, because a lot of people are trying to kind of limit the sweet content in their day. They're looking for something to kind of curb that sweet tooth. This is great because you've got some protein mixed with your carb. It's going to give you some good balanced blood sugars there. Yes, you can have bananas. I get a lot of patients who say, I can't have fruit anymore. Yes, you can. It's really about portion size, what you're pairing with it. We know bananas are high in sugar, but if you're being physically active, you're going to use that as energy. So we talk a lot about how energy takes up that blood sugar and you use that. So fuel yourself well, have some bananas, pair it with some peanut butter. You've got a little bit of protein powder in there you could add in. You could even do, I've seen Turkish yogurt or Greek yogurt, whatever you go for, will add kind of that, I think it's a little more moist. If you add that, you could do the sour cream too if you wanted, but that gives you a moist cake density there. And then same thing with the bananas, that's going to moisten your muffin as well. So you could really add in whatever you want here. If you're not a fan of chocolate chips, or you wanted to add something different, or you wanted to try out different types of protein powders, or throw in some maybe walnuts or extra nuts in there for an extra crunch, you could definitely do that. This is great because I'm always craving something sweet. So it's nice to kind of grab on the go and have it as a good sustainable snack, giving you energy and balancing those blood sugars. So just another quick snack recommendation. A lot of the time we don't have time. We might find a lack of time in our schedule to prep these things. So there are certain snacks we talk about for managing your blood sugar and balancing. Boiled eggs and fruit, you could boil them ahead of time. You've got fruit, a really nice carbohydrate there. You could do cottage cheese and fruit. You've got a really great protein, a little bit of milk fat in there. You can add fruit to it for some carbohydrate. I'm really big on turkey and cheese with whole grain crackers. A couple webinars ago, we did the tuna salad. I think it was like tuna avocado salad. So when you said tuna salad, try it. I'm like, yes, try it. It's so good. So that'd be a great quick snack, especially because you can take tuna whole packets. They're so great. They have the flavored packets these days too. So you can take that on the go with some crackers and really make that sustainable. Hummus with carrots, celery sticks, whole grain crackers. I prefer it usually if you're going to do a physical activity, I'd prefer you to have the whole grain crackers. So you have a little bit of that carbohydrate mixed with the protein of the hummus. Fruit and peanut butter, of course, banana and peanut butter, apple and peanut butter, pair your proteins with your carbs. And then Greek yogurt or Turkish yogurt with berries and granola. That's really nice to have a little bit of sprinkle on top for some crunch, some carbohydrate. You've got the protein, got a little bit of the berries mixed in for some fiber too. Or homemade trail mix is great too. So that's a really nice one. Even if you're not a breakfast person, you don't want to eat, stacking on some nuts with some dried fruit is going to be really great sustainable energy for you to start your day. So that is an overview of some quick snacks we can kind of go through, and just ways to kind of keep us fueled through our days and through physical activity and getting into it. Yeah.
One of the things that I thought you guys were going to mention with the exercise, I thought patients were, well, anyone actually, not just the patients, struggling. One is the record keeping, so that everyone has like some.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then keeping this. So now I'll tell you how useful this is. So once you start doing this, you also need to get one of these puppies. Okay. So this is real numbers. So well, this is my puppy.
Joshua.
So this is my year average before the puppy. And right now we are at 6,400 steps.
That's
real numbers. So now, but I think the really like having, because there are some days, like last night was cold, right? But we still need to go out. So, and if it's, I don't know, like how much we walk, so I can just tell you right away. So knowing, so we walk 2 miles after 9 p.m. So I wouldn't do that if I didn't have the puppy. Right? So like that's something that's kind of pushing you to do it. But I think the record keeping is important. So especially if you want to kind of know what the progress is, like having this available, because everyone keeps their phone all the time with them. You don't need a watch. Like you don't need to have one of those expensive watches. So as long as your phone is turned on for the fitness, it will record what you are doing. Now, the other thing is I shared kind of the links that you have on that specific slide that you have. I shared it on the video. So, but one thing that we keep probably repeating this, the total weekly exercise time is about 150 minutes at a moderate rate. And it's like 75 minutes if it's a little bit more access. So this is really not a lot. So just to keep us healthier, keep the circulation better, and it does help almost everything when you move throughout the day. And then you have to have reasons to do. And one of the things that I mentioned in some of our sessions is when it's cold, where are you going to walk if you don't have the gym membership? Well, go to grocery shopping and just walk all the aisles, even if you're not buying anything. That was something that we learned from Dr. Osmani. Or go to the mall and then just walk, just take a full walk around. The Christiana Mall is huge. I'm sure you can get easy like 3,000 to 4,000 steps with one full cycle. So I think there's a lot of ways to do this. Now, one other thing that I want to share is engaging patients. And I think someone like McKenna, like yourself, who's able to help patients with their start, because some of these patients may not be your bodybuilder type people, right? So these are people who are older, elderlies, mid-age at a minimum. So they really need to see if this is an option. Many insurances do have incentive for activities like having a personal trainer. And I'm hoping that maybe we can give your information out there to our patients, not just for the session only, but we can actually share the contact info for you so that maybe patients can reach out. And I do want to share one of our letters that we start sending to our patients so that they will be receiving these. Actually, there are a couple of them. And I'm going to just share my screen. And I think making sure that our patients really understand what they have, so what they will be getting from us. This is one of the letters that we start doing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. For those patients who may be high risk for heart attack because of their A1C being over 9. So this is a huge issue for our patients. The other one that we just incorporated is for the daily recommendation exercise. So this is something that Donna and her team created. So our patients, when we go through the case reviews, case conferences, everyone who may be benefiting from this, they are receiving these. We are giving this information out there. There are links on that letter that says the benefits and how they can actually watch all the sessions. There are a lot of ways, a lot of information out there. They just need to be probably paying attention and making sure that they take their health seriously, and then knowing that there's help available. You know, we have a lot of, in some cases, we have patients who need extra support, and then we have our social worker who's reaching out on top of our outreach. So there are so many ways to help our patients, and I'm hoping that these sessions would be reaching out to more people, and more people can benefit from what we are providing. Donna, anything you want to add?
I just need to say that I think it's important.
Your speaker on the PC needs to be turned off. While you are doing that, I'll just tell you, Caroline, I started making, I'm a person who's helping me at the house, my housekeeper actually is doing this. So we start making the Turkish yogurt at home now.
No way.
One of the things that we have with yogurt is those yogurt that we buy, they are not your typical yogurt. There's a lot of stuff in it. Mm-hmm. So when you start making your own, on this third cycle, it starts becoming your own brand. So like the third one is yours. So there's no artificial stuff in it. So we tried several times, but finally we are on it. So now, I mean, my mom, my sisters, they all make it back home. So now we start doing it. It's so simple. I didn't know how simple it was. And also, yogurt can be a little bit expensive here.
Yeah.
You do your own. Actually, it's way too simple. Maybe at the next, our next session, we can.
I have to say, I want to learn.
Share. So we bought all these jars and everything, so they're. So, but I think it would be useful for our patients to know, because the way that, like, especially with the berries, when you are mixing them with natural yogurt, I think you'll benefit from those a lot more than if it was just the regular yogurt that you are buying from a store. So, Donna, are you back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hallelujah. I was just going to say, I thought it was really great in your presentation, McKenna, when you talk about, where patients can begin, because Caroline and I can say that with some of our patients, like in the support group and things like that, they do struggle sometimes with, I think, activity, and seeing some of those movements where people can do things from their chair. I think that's encouraging for patients to think, I don't have to get up and physically go outside, or like you said, go to a gym, that they can actually be sitting there in their own home and still be, getting some physical activity, and hopefully building that up over time. I think sometimes if we're watching TV even and we're doing those activities, we may slowly be able to increase that without even really thinking about it, because our mind's focusing on something else, and we're doing it for 5 minutes a day, and then 10 minutes and 15 minutes. So I think, again, that's very encouraging to show that everyone can get activity or exercise in some form.
Right. Yeah. And one more thing I'll add about that I just thought of is just the fact that you can build in, we want to be realistic in our goal setting and where we start, and then create as much joy around that activity as possible, but also realize if we're out of the habit of movement, it's not necessarily going to feel good right away. But trusting the process, that building in that habit you will reap the benefits with time. And at some point, you won't feel like you're pushing against a wall any longer. It will be something that you come to look forward to, you feel really good doing. And, that is one thing, is just getting over that initial hump of starting. And sometimes you just, we try to create, like, as I guess, the least amount of barriers possible, right? And like focusing on enjoyable activities and focusing on being realistic and starting small. But recognizing there will still be somewhat of a hump to get over, and trusting like that will pass. And the more consistent you are with it, the more enjoyable it becomes.
Absolutely. Again, for those who's not able to have that start on their own, there's McKenna that they can reach out, and then maybe they can start with her. I'm hoping that we can have you back again and then do some other sessions and then cover this exercise from different angles. And I really appreciate you guys being available. And Donna did miss it in the beginning, I believe, but today is the Global Women's Day. Again, we are observing that here at United Medical. And until next time, please stay safe, and then we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.